Этот год для всех сложный, но вместе мы прорвемся. Хочу рассказать минутку информации по безопасности. Выступающие физически могут возле президиума маску снять для удобства, но в зале находиться желательно в масках. Безопасность превыше всего, как говорится.
Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги. Рад приветствовать вас на очередной конференции Ассоциации инженеров колтюбинга. Это у нас 21-я конференция. Она проходит, как вы знаете, в двух форматах, в очень сложное для всех время. В целом год для всех оказался таким испытательным, я бы его назвал, и для производителей техники, для производителей труб колтюбинговых, для сервисных компаний, да и для добывающих тоже, хотя нефть отыгрывает позиции последнее время, но насколько это надолго, никто не берется прогнозировать. Но, тем не менее, мы с вами встречаемся. У нас 2 дня конференции. Мы услышим множество очень интересных докладов. То есть технологии не стоят на месте. Это и технологии производителей оборудования. Мы практически первая секция конференции полностью посвящена производителям. Также мы услышим несколько докладов, собственно, от сервисных компаний, также производителей непосредственно самой трубы. Будут представлены у нас как сегодня, так и завтра. И, собственно, сегодняшний день конференции мы начнем с анализа текущей ситуации на рынке. И для первого доклада приглашается Краец Вадим Аркадьевич с докладом «Сценарный прогноз развития российского нефтегазового рынка, включая его сегменты колтюбинг и ГРП». Пожалуйста.
And gas market in Russia, including fracturing component and the coiled tubing.
Здравствуйте, уважаемые участники конференции. Мне выпала большая честь.
Good morning, distinguished participants of the conference. It's a big honor to be the first speaker at this conference in such difficult times, and I would like to share the vision of our company about the future of the oil services market, including coiled tubing and fracturing.
Прежде всего, надо сказать, что в этом году у нас резко изменился подход.
It is worth mentioning that this year we changed our approaches to projections in the oilfield services market segment.
Да, поскольку события этой весны. У нас какие-то технические неполадки, но тем не менее пока я вот.
So we have some technical issues, I guess, but I will make some introduction.
Еще в апреле, когда было непонятно вообще, что делается на рынке.
We made this projection in April, when it wasn't clear what is happening on the oilfield services market.
Значит, как развитие динамики нефтяных цен. Мы посчитали, что практически
And it was hard to predict the dynamics of oil prices. It is impossible to make one projection, one scenario in the current situation, because it will not be accurate. That's why, unlike in previous years, we decided to prepare 3 scenarios that might describe the situation at the oilfield services market. The oil price is the basic indicator that predetermines the economies of the oilfield services companies and production companies. We based our scenario on the assumptions of the oil prices in the future.
сделаны при формировании прогнозов.
So this slide shows the assumptions and our scenarios. So the first scenario with the oil prices $40-$45 and fast recovery of the oil-filled market and fast recovery of the oil-filled services market.
Положение о том, что вот это очень неустойчивое положение на добычном рынке.
So this unsustainable position
Сохранится в достаточно большой среднесрочной перспективе и
will stay in the midterm, and Russia will have to comply with the obligations under OPEC Plus scheme. And the most negative scenario with the prices of $30 to $40 per barrel and tightening of the oil production limitations. So we made a projection of the inflation. We checked the technological trends and tried to figure out the scenarios of the number of oil-field services operations. We took into account the possibility of commissioning of large oil fields, 4650 of them, but the oil reserves might not be confirmed. This is another risk. There was a report showing that a lot of reserves are not accurate. Their estimates are not accurate. This month, the taxation from January 1, 2021 is going to change, and this will make the production of hard-to-recover oil unfeasible and unsustainable. And based on these price projections, we prepared the oil production scenarios. So you can see that if we have the optimistic scenario, by 2030, the production will be 573 million tons. With the neutral scenario, by 2030, we might stay at the level of 2019 with our production. And the negative scenario, when by 2030, the production will be 532 million tons per year. We also checked what was happening in the oilfield services market in 2019. The market grew by 3.8% due to, in monetary terms, this was the monetary growth, 3.8%. Some of the segments experienced a downfall, like workover operations, from 70.1 thousand operations to 59.5 operations in 2018. So, and this was due to Rosneft and Tatneft, who had the main reduction of the operations. In the drilling segment, there was an increase in commissioning of horizontal wells and the reduction in the commissioning of the slanted wells. And again, The main fall here accounts to Rosneft company. So there's the contribution of all these segments, workover and fracturing operations. These are the main segments that predetermine 40% of the market, and that contribute to 40% of the market. The oil field services market has become the market of the client, and the pressure on prices is increasing all the time. This tendency enhanced in 2020, and it was aggravated by deferral in payments and late payments. And we believe that independent oilfield services companies will be in a poor position because the markets will be shrinking, and the oil production companies will be giving jobs to their own subsidiaries who are doing services. And some small and weak companies might be leaving the market because they might not be able to propose any progressive technologies. So this is the neutral scenario for the oilfield services market development. In this scenario, we also took into account the price dynamics for oilfield services. It includes inflation of 4% and relative reduction in the cost of services due to this pressure on prices that I mentioned before from the client side. Some 2 years ago, Rosneft contractors had to reduce the cost of their services by 15%. It was almost a mandatory reduction. This slide shows the dynamics that we might observe with no pressure on prices. In this case, if there is no pressure on prices, there will be a growth on the market. And if the optimistic scenario materializes, we will observe increase in the expensive operations like drilling. But if the situation will be deteriorating, then there will be a spillover of operations from drilling to workover. So the production companies, in order to support and sustain the production volumes, will be using cheap operations. And here is the negative scenario. So we also made an assumption here about the dumping on the oil field services companies and possible price dumping on behalf of the Chinese companies. Why do we take into account the price dumping possibility? So soon there will be a timer project started, which is quite a big project, and foreign investors might appear to participate in this project, primarily Chinese investors. And we could see what is happening in Kazakhstan on the oil field services market. And the oil production companies are followed by the oil field services companies. And in Kazakhstan, for example, if the production company belongs to China, then the oil field services companies are also from China. They do not let others into the market. As far as the coil tubing market is concerned, the workover segment experienced a drop, and it dragged coil tubing as well. This slide shows that almost all the CT workover operations experienced a reduction in their volume. And we need to bear in mind that with neutral scenario, we will observe this fall for 2-3 years. So experience some technical issue.
Понятно. Значит, при оптимистическом сценарии вот у нас произойдет.
If we take the optimistic scenario, the market will recover in 2021. This is our projection. In case of negative scenario, we'll have market drop and slow down till 2023. I mean, the city market. And the only thing that can help is a workover operations and multi-fracking. So let's have a look at what was happening at the fracturing market last year. If we divide the market into the sub-segments, volume-wise, despite the fact that the commissioning of the slanted wells reduced, fracturing in other wells helped a lot in this respect, because the production companies tried to sustain their production levels. Last year, we experienced reduction in one-stage fracking in slanted wells, but there was an increase in the multi-stage fracking. So this multi-stage fracking segment will continue pushing this market upwards in monetary terms. So this is the neutral scenario for a multi-fracking market. So why we experience an increase, as you see on the slide? As far as you remember, I mentioned that the drilling will be stagnating while workover operations will be increasing. Besides that, the number of horizontal wells commissioned will be increasing, and it will lead to high numbers of fracturing operations. In monetary terms, more than 80% will be the fracturing market by the year 2030 in monetary terms. So this is the most promising segment. In our negative scenario, the growth is much lower in monetary terms, but here the possible price dumping on behalf of Chinese services companies might affect the situation. In some private discussions, our oilfield services companies said that they will be objecting the penetration of such competitors to our services market. So this is my overview of the market and its future and your favorite coil tubing segment as well. Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Вопросов нет. Спасибо.
We don't have any questions. Thank you.
Минимальные средние прогнозы, ну, что с нашей стороны скажем,
You
нам
provided a midterm
и надеяться, что
projections and overview, and we have just to continue our working, and let's hope that everything will be okay. According to official statistics, the production reduced by 14% and 11%, they said, now it's not clear. So it's not clear what scenario is materializing, because sometimes in October, the oil price is reduced to 36. Now it's 44. So we see volatility in oil prices, and we act accordingly.
Спасибо за ваш доклад.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. So we had the first presentation at our conference.
Второй доклад, значит, тема группа FIT
Our
вчера, сегодня, завтра. Докладчик.
second presentation will be from the FEED Group, Pavel Laktionov, Commercial Director of the FEED Group. We'll speak about yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Dear friends, I would like to thank you for your bravery coming here. We were concerned whether we'll manage to gather here in this room. Many of those who were not able to come are present online, I hope. In my presentation, for those of you who do not know us, I would like to inform you about our company, about our group, who we are, what do we do now, and what are we going to do tomorrow. FEED Group is a group of Belarusian and Russian enterprises, because we are asked questions about that, but this is a group of Belarusian and Russian enterprises. FEED Group exists since 1989, and it is producing oil field services equipment and machinery since 1998. We produce fracturing equipment, CT equipment, cementing equipment, and equipment for directional drilling and other types of machinery. So this is our first unit of 1998. In 1999, we produced the first light class unit, and so far we have produced units of all kinds of classes and series. So our first clients were Gazprom, Schlumberger, Belarusneft, and probably you know our machinery as well, because it proved to be efficient and reliable. So since 2004, we're producing fracturing equipment. We produce all kinds of equipment, fleets, and equipment that operates in different regions and different weather conditions. And we tailor our equipment to the needs of the clients. We have a wide range of cementing, pumping equipment, and other kind of machinery. So we also manufactured some special units, some rigs for drilling in Lukoil Komi, and workover operations equipment, surface equipment for injection of polymer, slurries, etc. And we also do overhauls and repair of our equipment, and we have extensive experience in repairing equipment of other manufacturers as well. So we produce frac fleets. This is our series production. We manufacture all types of fracturing units, and they are tailor-made, as I mentioned. So we take into account your technical processes, your oil field peculiarities. We start with the design, typical design of our machinery, showing it to the client. For 10 years in a row, we have our own management system. We started with the fracturing machinery, quality management. Now all our equipment is subject to quality management system. This is the management and operational system created by people who are Russian speakers and the control center. So we use semi-trailers manufactured by ourselves as well. We used typical solutions to produce semi-trailers with 2, 3, or 4 axes. Currently, we produce units with the axle load 6 tons per axle. It was a big challenge for the pumping equipment. 1 year ago, I was reporting at this conference that we have plans to do so, and we finally manufactured the first equipment with such axle load. We understand the challenges of the current market. We understand the striving of the Russian government to push manufacturers to manufacture equipment in Russia. We have certified our products for its compliance with the Russian government's resolution number 719. This is the resolution about the origin of the products. We understand that not only design is important, but also assembly on the territory of the Russian Federation. That's why we created a new production facility in Smolensk region, and we start serious manufacturing of machinery there. By the end of the year, we'll prepare the site for manufacturing operations, and from next year, we will start the serious production of the Russian-made machinery. So these are the tasks for the near future. So first quarter next year, we will manufacture the first coiled tubing units at this Smolensk manufacturing facility. Our Russian company will be included into the list of Russian manufacturers. This is the list of the Minister of Trade. And we plan to produce full frac fleets and CT fleets on the territory of the Russian Federation. We understand that currently frac market is developing. High-volume frackings are becoming more and more popular, and our colleagues will deliver a presentation today. We already are in process of manufacturing a number of units for high-volume fracking operations. This is all from my side. I can take your questions.
Вопросы, пожалуйста, у кого имеются.
Questions?
Ну, если будут в кулуарах, спасибо, Павел Васильевич.
So should their questions arise, I think people will ask them later on. So I would like to invite next speaker, Sergeyenya Sergey, Chief Designer of Feed Group, and this presentation will be continued by Mr. Yuri Belugan, who is the Deputy Director for Marketing and Sales. Good morning, distinguished colleagues. My name is Sergey Sergeyenya. Many of you probably know me. I have been working for Feedmash company for 13 years. September this year, I left Feedmash company and I started working at Feed Group as a chief designer in the prospect projects. One of the main tasks of my department is to revive the project on manufacturing equipment for CT and tools for CT. You know that Feed Group started its business with this equipment, then we focused on fracturing equipment, and now Feed Group plans to offer you reliable equipment for CT operations. So that's why I will speak about an integrated approach to CT equipment from Feed Group. So our presentation consists of two parts. So the first part will be delivered by me, and the second part will be delivered by Yuri Belugan. The questions that you might have during my presentation, you can ask these questions after the end of the full presentation, so that we do not split our presentation in several parts. So let's start. I would like to start my presentation with a question. Why? Why do we believe that cooperation with Feed Group will be feasible and comfortable for you? Why, when we have sufficient number of manufacturers of CT equipment on the market and frac equipment on the market, why to cooperate with us? The answer is quite simple. The thing is that we have a special approach to our clients and companies. So the companies that we cooperate with or plan to cooperate with, we treat them not as standard clients, we treat them as business partners. We offer them not ready-made off-the-shelf solutions, but we offer them an integrated solution that will be tailored to their needs and objectives, and that would be efficient for their company in particular. So this approach and this scheme is depicted on my first slide. You can see that we are not offering a unit or only a part of the solution. We offer you a full range of equipment and systems so that you receive a set of equipment tailored to your needs, and that will be properly operational in your conditions and will be tackling the tasks that you have. We offer you hardware and software, the control system. So these two comes into one ecosystem. So our software reads information from each unit, and you can control all the units from one control point. This is similar to the fracturing fleet, where all the information comes together to one point from which you can control all the processes. So this is an integrated approach that we offer to you. So this is our offer. We can offer you equipment that consists of some standard or non-standard elements that are tailor-made exactly for you. You have certain needs, we analyze these needs and adapt our equipment to your needs. As we all know, the CT fleet consists of a number of machinery. The main one is the CT unit. And the CT unit consists of a chassis, the control cockpit. It consists of a spool or a reel, and the geometry of this reel depends on the tubular that you are using. So the unit also includes injector, with a pull force that is selected depending on the weight of the tubular that you're using. And it also includes the blowout equipment, blowout prevention equipment. From all this description, we can see that the main parameter when choosing the CT unit is the tubular that you are planning to use. So that's why, for your convenience, we prepared a scheme or a table that brings together information about the CT diameter, its length, and the possible machinery that we can offer. So if you need a 38 millimeter tubular, the variety is very big. We can offer you 3-axle, 4-axle chassis, depending on the length of the tubular. We can offer you the installation of the CT reel on a chassis or semi-trailer. This is used if you're moving on regular roads quite often. So this unit is manufactured in such a way that you will have no need to get a special permit to travel on the ordinary roads, and you will have to pay nothing for overloads because the unit installed on a semi-trailer is fully in line with the transportation rules of the Russian Federation. But if you need a greater tubular diameter, the variety of chassis available is reducing because the weight of the tubular is increasing. So that means higher requirements to the capacity of the chassis. For 44.45 tubular, we can offer you a 4-axle chassis. If it's 50 and higher diameter, then from our viewpoint, it would be more efficient to use not a single chassis, but to split the unit into two kind of chassis and semi-trailer, or chassis plus chassis. So it will be kind of articulated unit. So such approach has its advantages and disadvantages. One of the disadvantages is that you have 2 units. But there's a positive factor as well, and advantage with such a setup. The basic chassis, 4-axis chassis with the pumping station injector, the operator's cockpit, it's a constant chassis to be operated with different tubular diameters. So this allows you for some flexibility, and you can reconfigure your chassis and use either smaller diameter or higher diameter tubulars. Now let's discuss in detail the configurations of our machinery. We start with a single chassis configuration. This is a full drive chassis. If we use tubular up to 44 millimeters in diameter and up to 5.5 kilometers in length, we can use a full drive chassis. In addition to that, we offer the automatic control system for this unit. The run-in-hole and run-out-of-hole operations can be done automatically. Why do we believe that this is an advantage? This automatic run-in-hole and pull-out operations. In this case, we minimize the human factor, and we improve safety of our works, because human beings, they experience fatigue, they get tired. Again, qualification matters. the operator should be very qualified. If we have an automatic approach, we don't have all these human-related disadvantages. So the software is not experiencing any fatigue and is ready to respond to different changes. And the automatic system makes a stop to prevent certain breakage. What other advantages do we have with this setup or configuration? So it's maneuvering quite well. The chassis is full drive, so it can drive off-road and in different types of terrain. So in this case, the CT is always inside the injector. It reduces rigging time, but this unit has its disadvantages. So the dimensions are quite large and the axle load is very high. So when you need to drive the ordinary roads, either you need to pay for overload or you need to take off some of the pieces of the equipment. The alternative configuration using two transportation bases does not have these disadvantages. We have a baseline chassis, a 4-axis chassis with injector, operator cockpit, and BOPs, and it is set up in such a way that the axle load is not exceeding the traffic rule approved ones. And we have a semi-trailer with a spool. Again, the axle load fits all the limits, and we do not need to get any additional permits to drive general roads. So these are the configurations if we have 44mm tubular and lower. If we have tubulars with higher diameters, 50 and more, and then you will have to use several transportation chassis. It's chassis plus chassis configuration or chassis plus semi-trailer configuration. So we have a basic chassis with injector and operator cockpit. It might be used for tubulars with smaller or larger diameters. In this case, this chassis is very flexible. And then to choose either chassis or semi-trailer as a second component, it depends on your conditions and your operational conditions. If you need to have high driving ability, then you need to have chassis as a second component. If you want to have something cheaper, then you need a semi-trailer. So if you work in all offshore conditions, or if you need to deliver equipment by helicopter, we can offer you a modular configuration of our CT equipment. As I mentioned before, we offer a complete solution to our clients. So there is no fracturing fleet without nitrogen and pumping units. So we also offer nitrogen and pumping machinery. We can offer you equipment installed on chassis or a semi-trailer. As mentioned before, we use automatic control system in all our equipment to improve reliability, safety, and improving the lifetime of our equipment. So, on the pumping equipment, the system will be sustaining all the process parameters automatically. And the operation is done in an automatic mode. We also promise that this unit will not be working by itself. It will be part of the system, integrated system. together with the CT unit. Nitrogen unit. We can install it on a chassis, on a semi-trailer, or it can be a module. We also offer the automatic control system that is able to performing the job and the operations according to the preset parameters. And this unit will be integrated in the overall system of fleet control. So now we approach the control system of the full CT fleet. What modes do we have here? The manual mode, when the operator controls everything and sets all the parameters manually. And we have an automatic mode when the system is doing all the routine. So the control system consists of a number of parts. This is a CT control unit, nitrogen unit control system, and pumping unit control system. All these systems communicate with each other, and they have internet access. And from any point in the globe, you can have access to your machinery, you can see what is happening and what operations are underway. Besides that, the CT unit, which is the main unit of the fleet, you can adjust the parameters of the control system for the nitrogen and the pumping unit. And this is done to improve the general safety of your operations, to reduce the routine for the operator, reduce the fatigue of the operator, and reduce the human factor, personal incompetences. And it also is done to improve the lifetime, increase the lifetime of the equipment, because the automatic system sets the modes, the pressures, and the flow rates that are most feasible for this type of equipment. So using this automatic control is a big advantage in this case. This is all from my side, and I would like to give the floor to my colleague, and we will answer the questions at the end of the presentation.
Добрый день, коллеги. Спасибо, Сергей, за доклад.
Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. Thank you, Sergey, for your first part.
Как вы знаете,
I would like to say a few words about the products manufactured by Novinka company. Novinka is manufacturing some innovative equipment and equipment for the tubular monitoring and control. So we also tailor-made our equipment for the needs of our clients. Here is the defectoscope or CT analyzer for coil tubing. So this is the, we have a defect detector at the entrance of this room. You can touch it and see how it works. It is very reliable. So it is the real defect detector. So we take into account all the requirements of the market, and we can integrate the data collection system, because we have a separate presentation on the data collection system. So another pride of ours is the downhole equipment. We had a large project that is successfully completed. This is the directional drilling system, SNB 8976M. It consists of two modules, the control station, that includes software and hardware, It might be an operator, cockpit, or a kind of cabin, and the unit itself that is attached to the CT and run into the hull. So it consists by the ball, valves, circulation module, the orientation model, the return valve, and the drill bit. All the parameters are controlled and monitored, collected at the control station, and we can monitor the drilling process. We can collect all the data about the job, change the parameters, and the bottom hole assembly follows the trajectory that was preset. So another tailor-made development, this is the ejector well cleaning, meant for wells with abnormally low reservoir pressures and meant for reservoirs where classical flushing is not working. It's a simple principle. The ejector head with the double CT, the inner pipe delivers some pressure. It flushes the rock, and through the annular space we flush the slurry out, so we don't add any water to the well. So if you're interested, I will tell you in more detail personally about this head. We can develop it for different well parameters of different diameters. So the double tubular is one of the challenges, but we had such experience with the double SCP, and we had a positive effect. Another development of ours, this is the selective acid treatment of multilateral wells. This BHA allows to do acid treatments in carbonate collectors, and with the help of the same BHA we can conduct treatments of the multilateral wells because it finds the rat holes and side tracks and can clean it with acid. There is logging BHAs to deliver geophysical logging equipment. We take the needs of the customer, whether you need with circulation or without circulation, with the decouplers or without decouplers, and depending on the client needs, we design the BHA for logging operations. And simpler but necessary tools, workover tools, because we still have some such operations. This is the bottom hole tools for workover operations. Different decouplers, couplers, back valves, circulation valves, and different bottom hole assemblies. We can use sweeps, stocks as well, allowing to do simple operations and ending up with directional drilling on CT. These are the main areas of our company's operation, and if you need more details, we can discuss it later. So we can develop equipment that you need, depending on your needs and requirements. That's all from my side. You can ask questions from me and from my colleague. Questions?
Павел Егоров, компания Шинда.
I'm Pavel Yegorov from Shinda. You mentioned the development that you have so far for a long period of time. The multi-channel is double tubular. Do you have any specific results or? Yes, we have results, and my colleague will tell you in more detail, because we are discussing this issue with you. So we did 5 wells at Lukoil. Yes, we started developing this equipment in 2017, 2018, and we did jobs at 5 wells, successful jobs. What diameters did you have? Well diameters or no, tubular diameters?
2,1 дюйм, 50,8 и 25,4 была внутренняя. Ну, конкретно на этих работах. Ну, есть варианты, делать расчеты на
50 millimeter and 25 millimeter, the outer and the inner pipe.
Ну, конкретно те работы делали.
And we had experience with 22 millimeter pipe, so different diameters.
Еще вопросы, пожалуйста, по первой части.
Any further questions?
Ну, тогда
on the first part of the presentation or the second one?
вроде как бы немного знают, если кого-то будет интерес, может в кулуарах подойти.
You know these people, so should you have any interest, you might approach them and ask questions in more detail. And we would like to give the floor to our next speaker, Roman Sherbin, who will speak about feed group solutions for high volume fracturing operations. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. I'm the chief designer of Interserv Soyuz, which is part of feed group. And I would like to speak about the feed group solutions for high volume fracturing operations. What is the high volume fracking operations for us? So we treat it as a typical fracking operation, except for the fact that we have high flow rates from 10 cubic meters per minute and above. So we use some specialized equipment. So since we have high flow rates, we have high volumes to be injected, and the higher volumes of the materials that is needed for such fracturing. The interest to such high volume fracking operations is increasing because we have more and more high volume frackings done nowadays. That's why we observe certain developments of the services companies in this sector. High volume fracking require a considerable number of equipment and machinery in order to ensure these high flow rates, injection rates. Large volumes require additional time to bring all the equipment on site and assemble it. So there's the requirements of the space requirements for the equipment to be put on site. These operations can be performed with the use of standard fracturing equipment that we're used to. So we check the personnel for their readiness for such type of operations. So the mixers we use, there might be the backup of the mixers. So the standard mixers have flow rates up to 10 cubic meters per minute. The hydration units have also limited flow rates up to 10 cubic meters per minute. So Due to this fact, for high-volume fracturing operations that require 16 cubic meters or 20 cubic meters per minute injection rate, we cannot perform such operations without duplicating the machinery and the units. We need also some buffer tanks to be used and some high-capacity tanks for propane. All this is linked to certain risks, of course, when we use more pieces of equipment. And the clients are concerned that the targets might not be achieved with this set of equipment. That's why it would be more feasible to use specialized equipment that is meant for high injection rates, allowing to reduce the number of personnel involved and the number of machinery units involved on site. This reduces transportation time and the setup time. So here are some pieces of equipment, specialized equipment that will allow you to reduce the number of equipment units. So this is the high capacity pumping unit. But unfortunately, this high capacity pumping unit is heavy and it goes beyond the limits to travel on the general roads. In order to transport such pumping equipment, you will require obtaining permits and paying for overload. So this slide shows the calculation of the number of pumping units. From 2,200 horsepower to 3,000 horsepower capacity, we see the reduction in the number of units that we require on site. So on this table, you can see the data for different flow rates and different volumes to be injected and the number of pieces of equipment that is needed. Mixer unit, again, high capacity mixer unit allows achieving up to 22 cubic meters per minute. So here we use a separate motor for the pump that is capable of preparing large volumes of mixtures, and this unit is different from conventional ones because it doesn't have any space to locate tanks with chemicals. But for such large volumes, it is quite okay because you will have a separate unit for chemicals. Hydration unit. All the companies are accustomed to standard dimensions, 12 meters and 2.5 meters in wide. And the hydration unit that is of high capacity, this hydration unit should have a stock of dry or liquid gel forming unit with the 1620 flow rates. It's up to 100 kilos per minute. It's quite a boring process for the operator, but we believe that it would be more reasonable to create a gel preparation unit using a dry or liquid gel agent and A special tank is attached to this unit that will ensure the necessary level of gel hydration, at least 3-minute indicator. This is the hydration time. So this is the widely used gelling agent that is available on the Russian market. So manifolds and pipelines, we have a special trailers for manifolds. They are different from conventional ones due to the fact that the high-pressure 3-inch line allows pumping 3.2 cubic meters per minute. So for higher flow rates, we need a different high-pressure equipment. In order to minimize the quantity of manifolds and pipelines, we offer the following concept. We put 4-inch 3-4 lines with the 3-inch entry points from the pumping equipment. So 4-inch pipe allows pumping 5 to 6 cubic meters per minute, and it simplifies all the conditions for the working personnel and operators. You can use a 7-inch line, of course, but you will need a high-capacity equipment to install these manifolds, 7-inch lines and manifolds, and the repair kits are not so common, so you will have to wait for long if something happens and you will need to repair the 7-inch manifold. Chemical dosing unit. The more tanks you have, the better for your injection. This unit can be installed on chassis and on a semi-trailer with the tank volumes from 14 cubic meters. You might abandon the operator cockpit in this case, and you can control this unit from a distance and install additional tanks instead of the operator cockpit. Another field of work of our company is the development of the electric drive for the fracking fleets. This is quite a popular solution. In the United States, around 15 fracking fleets have electric drives. It's quite an interesting topic for development, so that's why we decided to go into it. So far, we have selected the electric engines for the pumping unit from 2.2 to 6,000 horsepower, and for the mixer unit as well. Data collection system, as the previous speaker mentioned, we have our in-house control system for the fracturing fleets. For more than 10 years, we are developing our in-house control system.
Более 10 лет мы развиваем собственную систему сбора данных и управления. Это нам позволяет адаптироваться под пожелания заказчика.
So this allows us to take into account the wishes and needs of our clients to improve software. If our clients need additional parameters, we can show downhole pressure, downhole flow rates, and concentrations. This all can be ensured for our clients. On the following slides, you can see the screenshots of the interface of our control unit. This is a mixer and hydration unit. This is what the operator can see. You can have a look at this and correct and adjust up to your needs. And all signals come to the control station, and the operator can configure various windows, building charts, real-time charts, following the operation and monitoring the operation parameters in real time. So what are our plans for the future? We plan to introduce the function of automatic identification of the equipment. When you connect the units to the control system, the operator can see the unit, its number, it can see the runtime of this equipment, the remaining lifetime, the consumed resource, etc.
Значит, также мы планируем развивать нашу систему управления в части использования надежных беспроводных каналов связи.
We plan also to develop our control system using cables to avoid damages to the cables and building up the reliability. Introduction of automated algorithms to control pumping units. We have an ambitious goal of automating the control process for our pumping units so that in automatic mode the system can distribute the resource and the runtime of the equipment.
Значит, чтобы система автоматически сама распределяла ресурс, нагрузку, выводила установки в случае каких-то сбоев и вводила резервные агрегаты.
So the system will be distributing the workload itself and introducing the backup equipment. We can also calculate the operating time of the pumping units to equally use various pumping units.
Также мы себе ставим задачу автоматизировать процедуру настройки и калибровки установок.
We also automate the procedure of calibrating various units and pieces of equipment like propane supply system to make interface more user-friendly. Introduction of the current condition diagnostic system for the equipment and machinery. We are testing the diagnostic system for the high-pressure pumps to diagnose the wear and tear of valves and hydraulic parts of the pump. So we'll do tests, field tests, and we'll see what the field tests will show us. Establishing a single control center is another task so that all the units are controlled from one screen with different tabs so that one person from a distance, from an office, can control and monitor the operation and the job. And their transmission to the ERP of the client. We believe that this is quite a promising topic because every client has its own ERP system to follow the necessity for maintenance and repair and the operating time of the equipment. So this information might be interesting for our clients. So should you have any questions, I would be glad to answer it. Thank you very much for an interesting presentation. You described in detail the high volume fracturing operations, the technical part, but can you share some statistics? How many jobs were done in the Russian Federation? And the second question, is there any analysis of the success and efficiency of such operations? So is it reasonable to bring on site so many pieces of equipment? Thank you. So, unfortunately, I don't have statistics about the number of jobs done in the Russian Federation. Together with clients, we did some successful jobs with the integrated fracturing fleets. When we put two fleets together, for example, in one of the jobs, we connected our client's frac fleet with the fleet of another manufacturer, and the job was quite successful. Our client was happy. So this is what I know. Any more questions? So about the effectiveness of these operations, the well yields after the fracking. So, well, you know, I will not be able to answer this question. You might ask our companies. Yes, because, you know, Roman is a representative of the equipment manufacturer, but these questions should go to the clients about the well yields and flow rates. I'm Marchenko Vladimir from Belarusneft company. We tested the modernized fracking fleet at our oil field. I will tell more in my presentation, but we had a 4 or 5 times increase in the standard well yields for oil. And if we compare with the multi-stage fracking with ball assemblies, it's 2 or 3 times improvement. And I have a question to my colleagues about your manifold unit. 20-22 cubic meters flow rate is your mixer, but manifolds capacity is 16 cubic meters. So why is this difference? So why our manifold is 16 cubic meters per minute of capacity? Because this semi-trailer, we cannot produce the semi-trailer more than 14 meters long to fit into the transportation dimensions, and 12 pumping units set well and are connected well to this kind of manifold. The 4-inch output allows for connecting additional pumping units and ports, bringing up to 16 cubic meters, and this will allow reaching this 20-22 cubic meters of flow rate. So your manifold block is limited by the number of connections. Yes, mainly this is the number of connections limitation, because if you put more connectors there, it would not be good for pumps, because you will have to put additional high pressure lines. Thank you. Thank you, Roman. I have a technical question. You mentioned about the electric engine for blender and the pumping unit, but this requires high power. Where do you get this power? So in this case, to use this electric engine, you should have a power station at the site. Americans are using gas turbine engine power stations, and the exhaust is used to heat up the water for some jobs and operations. So it improves the efficiency of the generator itself and the equipment in general. So we never say no to anyone. We are quite open. Thank you. Any more questions? No more questions. Thank you, Roman, for your presentation. So next presentation will be done online. The technical service is ready, I guess. It's not me who will be speaking. So we have communication, we have connection. I would like to give the floor to Sergei Simakov from Gazprom Neft NTC. He will speak about the acid tunneling with the use of coiled tubing. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. Glad to welcome you for the first time in a remote manner. Welcoming all of you sitting there in the room and those who are connected remotely. So I will speak about the acid tunneling CT conveyed in Gazprom Neft. The Gazprom Neft spoke about its initiatives on the CT operations, and I will tell you about these initiatives. The CT drilling, this is what we are trying to approach for quite a considerable period of time. But it's not a quick process, of course. Expanding the drainage area and using new materials in our coiled tubing installations. So we'll be speaking about radial drilling in the eastern part of the Primorsk gas condensate field. We'll be speaking about inclinometers, acid channeling, etc. Getting down to the meat of my presentation, the acid jet tunneling. This is one of the initiatives that we implemented in our company. I would like to comment of the ERPI presentation. Currently, we see that the future is for new technologies, some non-conventional operations and non-conventional technologies. So that's why our company introduced this new technology that was implemented for the first time. The acid jet tunneling, we create tunnels with the help of a stream of acid. Finally, we form tunnels in the oil-saturated streaks. The acid tunneling can be used in all the western part of the Orenburg oil gas condensate field. So on this slide, you can see the equipment that we use. Gazprom Neft Orenburg, together with the research center, elaborated new technologies of enhanced oil recovery that would allow increasing oil yields 3 times in the low permeability streaks. This improves the productivity of wells and making them more productive in the future, and this technology might be a good alternative to the methods that are currently used.
Техническая поддержка была со стороны научно-технического центра.
We received technical support from the Research and Technical Center. They helped us in selecting the equipment, chemical agents, and field tests. So the cross-functional team was established. It included employees of Gazprom Neft Orenburg, Gazprom Neft Research and Technical Center, and the Fracking Volga company that was implementing the works. So in this business case helped to assess the remaining oil reserves as well. So on this slide, you can see the equipment that we used in our job. I will not tell you all the pieces of equipment. You can see it on the slide.
Испытания, в ходе выполнения работ, конечно же, необходимы были еще и сами испытания.
So during the job, we needed to conduct some tests. So the hydronic whip stock was tested for 504 bar of pressure. Of course, before starting the job, we needed to do some tests to demonstrate to our client the efficiency of the technology. So in angles, we used marble and used acid material to show the effect of the acid tunneling. So we assumed that there will be a certain oil field. It was not specifically mentioned during the tests, and we tested various parameters for the would-be operation. What are the peculiarities of this inclinometer? The material, the recording time, it is meant for the angles. It is worth mentioning that the experience of using this technology at the first well was later on taken into account for subsequent wells. We also test the hypothesis of using underbalanced acid channeling, a neutralized acid slurry and the parts of broken rock, and improving the effect by reducing the counter pressure on the reservoir. So we tested for the possibility of this underbalanced channeling with the production of fluid from the wellbore. However, it is worth mentioned that the production of the well fluid was stopped for some time because there were some distortions, and it could not confirm whether we have a deviation of the tunnel from the mother wellbore and whether we reached the bottom hole of the channel. It is worth mentioning that when testing any new technology, any new business case, we have failures and deviations from the intended parameters. So what deviations we had in the case of our jobs? So flushing the technological holes in the hydro monitor had destruction of the head and breakages of CT. You can see all these defects that we had. So recommendations. At the first well, we already received certain understanding that the failure of certain elements of the equipment is due to integrated axial loads, the hydrochloric acid and H2S effects. So this contributes to the breakages of the equipment in the open hole. As a result, we received the hydrogen corrosion and cracking. So we refused using the two-knee whipstock inclinometer because when we used two inclinometers, we achieved higher inclination angle. It means different performance. Due to high rigidness of the 44 millimeter CT, we focused on 38.1 millimeter tubular to reach out to the lower streaks in the reservoir. Since we didn't have any information about the trajectory of our tunnels in real time at that moment, there were risks that the channels will go into a different direction, and that, of course, reduced our coverage ratio. The optimal solution at that time was to introduce an online data transmission system. It is worth mentioning that our intention to involve online data transmission tools we applied this solution at 2 wells out of 6. So we applied an inclinometer with the online data transmission. So the first tunnel was created in order to deepen the artificial bottom hole. So the channels were formed, 5 channels downwards and 2 channels upwards. So this allowed us to confirm both hypotheses. 38.1 millimeter CT being less rigid allows tunneling of the roof and of the floor, so creating upward and downward channels. Unlike the 44 millimeter CT, it is more rigid, but it allowed building channels, only upward channels. So this was one of the hypotheses that was confirmed. So the channels aimed at extending the artificial bottom hole served as an indicator for us. When using 38 millimeter CT, the channels were created downward. With the CT of higher diameter, 44 millimeter, the channels were mainly going upward. So to confirm or not to confirm this hypothesis, it was difficult to do so, but the 2 hypotheses were only part of the whole analysis, and the latter hypothesis was around 100% and then reducing to 70%. So this is explained by the individual peculiarities of the mother boreholes and different wellbore characteristics. So this is the understanding that we arrived at when doing these operations. So the technology has been tested at 6 wells. We continue our tests and operations. The total number of acid channels is 64, and it is increasing since we continue working, and the total length of our acid channels is almost 3.8 1,000 meters.
Общий объем кислотного состава
The
представлен.
total volume of acid is 8,000 cubic meters, and the total time spent for operation is more than 1,000 hours.
В данном случае
Advantages and limitations.
тех моментов, которые здесь обозначены,
In this case, apart from the limitations and advantages mentioned on the slide, it is worth mentioning that it is possible to do acid channeling and flushing without installing new equipments and BHAs. So we use the equipment and CTs that is currently used at our fields. In red, these are some highlights. Open hole, preferably carbonate, acid-soluble reservoir. So possibility to work through side tracks and the acid tunneling is cheaper than one side tracking operation.
Поскольку скважины восточного участка эксплуатируются преимущественно.
So the wells in the eastern part are operated by the open hole method, and we can do operations through the piping without killing the well and retrieving the pipes, the tubing. There's a higher probability of the maximum number of oil-saturated streaks to be covered. So the side tracking is done by drilling one well bore. The acid tunneling allows to produce up to 14 channels and even more. So that means that we have better chances of opening and reaching to the oil-saturated intervals.
Если вкратце та технология, с которой я хотел с вами поделиться.
So this is brief information about the technology that was implemented at our company. This is the end of my presentation. We have more initiatives ahead of us that we need to implement together with the team. Should you have any questions about the operations that I mentioned, I would be glad to answer these questions.
Пожалуйста, вопросы имеются?
Questions?
Так, есть вопрос. Микрофон.
Yes, we have questions. Please take a mic.
Добрый день еще раз. Марченко Владимир, компания «Беларусьнефть».
Good afternoon. I'm Marchenko Vladimir from Belarusneft. I have a couple of questions to you. You mentioned that you worked at 6 wells. Did you analyze the speed of reaction of the acid slurry and the passage speed, the channel creation speed, so to say? And it would be good to have more details about the lifetime of CT. So how many channels you can do with one tubular, what additives you use in order to prevent corrosion of the tubular, etc. So as far as the first question is concerned, the channeling speed depends on the lithological properties of the rock and of reservoir. On average, it's about 3 meters. Concerning your second question, the operating time and the wear of the city is around 70% for the whole period of the operations. So, of course, acid affects the tubular. There is a cracking problem. So if you receive a new tubular with 0% of operating time, and after doing channeling at one well, we didn't analyze what was the wear of the tubular after one well operations. So I have a clarification. Am I getting right? So 70% is wear of the city. Does it mean that you used only one city? So we used two fleets. I just gave you the average operating time or wear entire parameter of the tubular. Well, if you're interested in this, the lifetime of the tubular and the wear and tear, we can analyze data in more details. What was the effect of acid? So, and then in a working manner, we can share probably this information with you. Because as far as I see, it is of great interest for you. Thank you. Any more questions? No more questions. Thank you, Sergey, for your interesting presentation. Equipment worked well, and you managed to do it remotely. Thank you. And we have the final presentation of the first session. I give the floor to Viktor Yarchenko, head of the sales department of NOV FeedMash. He will speak about technologies and development of the company. We have one more question. There's one question online. The question was from Mikhail Lobov, Schlumberger, addressed to Feed Group. Does Feed Group work on developing its own engine and gearbox to avoid using foreign ones and ensure import substitution? Thank you for the question. No, we are not working on developing our own engines and gearboxes. Okay, thank you. So we have our next speaker ready. So it's my new position at FeedMash. I joined FeedMash company only 3 months ago. Many people know me. My name is Viktor Levchenko. I'm the head of the sales department at FeedMash. I will not take much of your time today, but I would like to dwell about the company itself from a different angle. So historically, FeedMash is associated with coiled tubing equipment. People hear FeedMash, they say, yeah, coiled tubing manufacturer. But this is not true, fully true, because our company is a high-tech company that manufactures different types of equipment for well treatment. Well, historically, yes, we were manufacturing coiled tubing and nitrogen units and pumping units. We were also supplying CT and equipment, but we also manufacture fracturing equipment and cementing units. We have our own monitoring and control systems and the remote service. As far as the coiled tubing is concerned, we are trying to meet the market requirements, and we have been one of the main CT manufacturing companies on the market. But our designers are not sitting idle. They are upgrading and improving our units that are in demand on the market. This is the conventional MK30 unit of different configurations. These units are the most used and the most purchased ones. Around 90% of units on the market will be this MK30. So what can be improved? Very soon, I hope in the summer, we will have no coronavirus anymore. We will have a Moscow exhibition, and at this exhibition, you will see our coil tubing unit based on Tatra truck, Tatra chassis. It will have higher spooling capacity and a Euro 5 engine, because we are now tapping international markets. We receive a lot of orders from Ukraine. We also work with Romania, and we are very forward-looking, analyzing our sales even to Guatemala. So the drilling is going deeper and deeper, so there's big demand for this coil tubing drilling. We know we communicate with the clients, and we know that there are possible projects at Gazprom Neft up to 100 wells with horizontal sections of 2,000 meters long. So we already manufactured MK40 units based on Iveco chassis. These are heavy-duty installations with the high-capacity injectors, and these units are meant for tubular diameters more than 44 and 50 millimeters to perform more high-tech operations like opening and closing ports, plug and perf operations, and other types of new jobs that yield better results for the clients and that simplify operations at the horizontal wellbores. Alongside with the coil tubing machinery, we produce nitrogen units, can be installed on any chassis. We stay in touch with all chassis manufacturers. We can install the nitrogen units on semi-trailers. These are semi-trailers manufactured in Minsk. We can do it in modular configuration or configuration for helicopters. So, and according to the client needs, we tailor our nitrogen units for these needs, and I got surprised recently. I remember the first nitrogen units that I saw 10 years ago of Feedmash. It was quite a mediocre unit, but now these are sophisticated units that can do everything automatically. The operator just needs to press a couple of buttons and open a couple of valves. So these are really smart and high quality equipment. So CT cannot work without pumping. So this what you need a pumping unit as well. So we also manufacture various pumping units. They can be installed on various chassis, full drive chassis, or we can put it on a trailer, or we can create a modular configuration that is transportable by helicopters. Another type of machinery which is not high in demand today, this is the cementing equipment. We manufacture cementing equipment installed on chassis, trailers, containerized, etc. And these cementing units might be combined for high flow rates of cement and with pressure up to 350 bar or up to 500 bar. And this might be one high pressure pump and one flow rate pump. Everything depends on the needs of our clients. Another area of work, one of the main ones that was underestimated previously in our company, this is the fracturing track. Our company manufactures high quality and reliable fracturing units. On the slide, you can see some examples of these fracturing units and fracturing fleets. So the pumps that can be installed on chassis, trailers, blenders, manifold trucks, prop end trucks. A number of prop end trucks can be joined together. We have our own control station and our own software that we use. Based on your requirements, we can assemble any fracturing fleet. It might be a high volume fracturing fleet, or we can even create an electric fleet powered by electric engines. So our colleagues in the United States, they do this. Our NOV company in the United States produces this electric engines. So we can create a fleet for any type of work. If you need a small fleet with the capacity of driving different terrains, cheap one, expensive ones, depending on what you need. Automated control system allows controlling the jobs and operations. We install the systems on all types of equipment, CT, nitrogen units. All our equipment is high-tech and in line with the modern requirements. I managed full automated nitrogen units. We can do the same for CT machinery that will be operated automatically. The previous speaker mentioned their system, which is similar. This automatic mode ensures safety of works. It keeps people healthy and saving our well from uncontrolled impact and human factor. For more than 2 years, we already have our FeedMarsh online system. With the help of this system, we can control the correctness of jobs and operations, the location of the equipment, ensuring file exchange, and the information that is recorded is sent to the server. I think this software is very useful, not only for users and the owners of the equipment. However, it is very important, of course, because you can monitor the overloads, you can see the errors, because the error notification comes automatically, or the system can stop operation if it becomes dangerous. So this software is also very useful for the production companies and their supervisors, especially now in this difficult time. They might not be sending their people to sit in a cockpit of a coiled tubing unit. It can be done from the office, from computer or mobile device, and all the process might be controlled remotely. If certain problems occur, they can be spotted in real time. As I mentioned, our company is multifaceted, and the main advantages of our company are that we can start from scratch, from the idea of our client, from the requirements and needs of a client, and we can produce machinery. We can produce vehicles, multifunctional units that proved to be efficient. So 5 days a week, we have our own design bureau operational. We have 2 factories with 11,000 square meters of floor area of production facilities. So we cover the full cycle from drawing to the production of a high quality unit. We have our own firing range, test range, so to say, with the well that can simulate various problems and conditions like clamps and high pressures, and we can test the unit before giving this unit to the client. And when the client comes, all the tests are done with the client sees it. So the client is able to see that the unit is ready for work. They will just need to register this unit and start operating. And since we are the manufacturer, we have stock of parts, spare parts, and good logistics. We receive quickly parts from our suppliers, and we can send parts very quickly to our clients if they need maintenance and repair. Another advantage is that Feedmarsh is part of NLV Corporation, which is operating for more than 40 years, supplying its equipment all across the world. On this slide, you can see the names of the companies that are purchasing from NLV. Hydra Rig, this is the company that produces one of the best coil tubing units worldwide. Texas Soil Tools, this is a BOP manufacturer. These BOPs are used all across the world. I worked all across the world, and this is really very good equipment. Quality Tubing, one of the best CT manufacturers. Rolligon, they produce fracturing equipment. Enerflow, this is the backflow equipment, and CTS produces software. So far, we have access to all these equipment in terms of drawings, assistance. If we cannot do something in Belarus, our partners and our main companies located in Singapore, Dubai, Aberdeen, United States, they can help us provide drawings, provide software, or provide spare parts if necessary. We have a branch office in Russia representing these companies as well, and this representative might help you if you need any assistance. So as I mentioned, more than 40 years of experience. Once I had to work at the unit produced 22 years ago, and it was fully operational. I would like to mention that I'm very thankful that I managed to join the company in such a difficult time. A Fidmash company that is taking one of the leading positions, operating more than 20 years on the market, with more than 250 employees who are happy. The company has produced more than 400 units of equipment, 70 unique models. These are really unique models. Equipment is operating in more than 15 countries. And I hope that in 2021, we will expand our geography. And we have more than 80 permanent clients. And clients come back to us. This shows that we provide quality and our brand is known. And if you have any questions, I would be glad to answer. Thank you.
Пожалуйста, вопросы есть?
Questions?
Да, Виктор, спасибо, замечательное выступление. Гилов Руслан.
Thank you, Victor, for your presentation.
По совету по финансовой, промышленной, инвестиционной политике.
I'm representing the Financial Committee and Investment Policy Committee of the Russian Federation.
Новый формат. Вы знаете,
so it's an absolutely new format that we have today. There are people of the era, but they are not here in this room. Elena Lopatentova, we were the founding fathers, and Leonid Grozdelovich, we were the founding fathers. And I see the former team of Fidmash, they are not happy. Yuri Belugan and others. I'd like to say that it's a difficult time. Pandemic and geopolitical war. And we are under tight sanctions. Ukraine is not the best example. I visited Kyrgyzstan, the Eurasian week, and we are part of CSTO and Eurasian Economic Union. I see the feed group, Viktor Yarchenko from Rybalka 26th Street. And my first question is, are you going to be competitive in pricing? And I know that you have a factory in Kostroma in the Russian Federation, and I would recommend NOV as a transcontinental company to move to the territory of the Russian Federation to implement projects in the Russian Federation. So we received the task from Mr. Putin to create the Russian fracturing fleet. It should be manufactured on the territory of the Russian Federation. So we have a number of institutes, a number of financial and industrial groups that are doing this difficult job. There are certain wins. You will know probably about this later if you don't know yet about the success stories. But in this high-tech era, Russian Federation is not fully sufficient And the groups of companies that you listed, rolling, hydraulic, quality tubing, we have STM from Russia here in the room. But I think that if you start manufacturing coil tubing and fracturing machinery and cementing machinery on the territory of the Russian Federation, it will take into account the recent events happening in the Eurasian Economic Union. A lot was mentioned, and we know that. I remember my 12 or 15 years of participating in this conference. There are a lot of new people in this room. I don't remember them, but I remember some of you. Today, taking into account that the exchange rate is not so good, so the dollar and euro are growing. If we take another Western element, it will be a multi-currency basket. How are you going to hedge these risks? Because for us, it is interesting to make pricing in Russian rubles. So thank you for your presentation. I don't know whether everyone got this presentation. I got it. I understood it quite well. There's another type of positioning, another type of vector in this presentation. And the person who spent more than 10 years in introducing coil tubing technologies, I'd like... No, I'm not speaking about you, I'm speaking about myself. I would like to understand.
Все предсказания не Нострадамуса, а макро- и микроэкономики Российской Федерации показывают,
all the forecasts, macro and microeconomic forecasts, show that 2021 will be one of the most difficult years, and we should be prepared for this. Yeah, we need to continue working. It will be difficult, but we need to continue working. We need to produce oil, we need to drill, despite the fact that there are declines in drilling, etc. So industrial groups need to focus on this. Thank you, Victor. It's a pleasure that we have traditions, that people are the same. I like Belarus. I wait and looking forward for the times when you will be able to receive us there. Thank you for your presentation. So we'll be glad if we can discuss this. Thank you. Thank you very much for supporting my presentation. What you suggest about Kostroma, we really discussed this offer. We have facilities, but due to a number of reasons, some of the facilities are not operational currently. We are discussing this. And we have people and specialists in Minsk who do and produce machinery on their own. But we'll think about what you mentioned. As far as the price reduction is concerned, it was also a very correct comment of yours. So first of all, I would like to say that we have an ICoTA company that produces chassis. They are offering very interesting options for us. So now they are not producing this missile tractors. They start developing very interesting machinery. And in Naberezhnye Chelny, that people are not sitting idly there, and we're thinking about selling our equipment to India, and we consider cooperation with KAMAZ, because KAMAZ is now much better, not only in rally, but also in producing special chassis. And KAMAZ is receiving certificates to operate in a number of countries. So that also pushes the price down. So we have this work that is being done. Thank you. So thank you very much for your presentation. This is the end of the first session. I would like to remind you that we have a coffee break till 12:20. Please don't be late, because we have a lot of presentations that will be made online. So 12:20 is the end of the coffee break.